You ready to get started?
I am.
Well, let's do it. So, I'm here today with Darin Keizer, the athletic director at Dordt University, somebody I had the opportunity to meet at a conference, global. What was the name of that conference, Darin? It was the Global Sport Conference.
Yeah, Faith in Sport or Institute of Faith in Sport Conference. Yeah, down in Baylor.
So we had an opportunity to sit around and chat. I've since then had the opportunity to be on campus in Sioux Center, Iowa, where Dordt University is. Got to spend a couple days there. It was awesome. Before I leave today, I'm going to try to convince Darin to recruit a softball girl that I know actually here at the Woodlands Christian Academy, where I am the assistant girls athletic director. And so if you have a student athlete that is looking for a very faith first but competitive athletic program, you should definitely check out Dordt. And we're going to talk about the Defender Way today and what it is that they do. But we're going to specifically talk about coaching and what Darin does at the administrative level to not just hire good mission-driven coaches, but continue to foster their mission as they grow as coaches and leaders on campus at Dordt. So, Darin, I know I did introduce you, but Dordt's not your first step into the world of athletics. So tell us a little bit about you and kind of a short pathway from when you got started in athletic administration to where you are now at Dordt.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the show today. It's been great getting to know you over the last bunch of months, and awesome to have you on campus. Always great to hear people's thoughts, opinions, backgrounds, and experiences. And so I'm excited to walk through those today with you guys as well. My journey, I go back to being a grad assistant coach, wanting to be a college coach, and God had different plans for me, and he turned me into an athletic director at the high school level. So I was at a small school in Southwest Iowa. And then I took a high school athletic director job at a 9 through 12 Christian school. I was there for 10 years as an athletic director. And then, God had other plans for me and called me to Dordt University. And so here I am.
Well, catch me up and educate me so that I sell this properly. Is the Defender Way something you stepped into, or when you came on campus and you took over as a leader, as the athletic director, is this something that you thought, man, we need to focus this in? So which one was it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, I stepped into it. My predecessor was a phenomenal leader, was a basketball coach. And when we were developing Coaching for Transformation, he developed the Defender Way at Dordt. And it's taken strong roots, and it's been awesome.
So tell us about the Defender Way. What is it that y'all do specifically? I got to hear a lot about it, but I want them to hear from you. What is the Defender Way? What is it that y'all are trying to accomplish with this mission within the walls of Dordt University in the athletic department?
Yeah, so we started the Defender Way off of the verse Romans 12:1, offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. I've kind of added on when I talk to people, I really like verse 2 as well. Do not be conformed to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. And I think with the ever landscaping of college athletics, we know where it's at. We know what people are doing, and it's chasing money, chasing fame, chasing eye. The Defender Way really focuses on a holistic approach of developing a student athlete. And so we have it in 4 pillars. Pillar number 1, we're committed to the Great Commission and cultural mandates. So how do we disciple students here? And then how do we send them out into the world to share the gospel of Christ? We want to develop servant leaders. So we talk about service a lot in our programs. Like, how are we serving each other, our community? What are we doing to serve the broader community of believers or non-believers? Committed to the academic excellence of our student athletes. Like, they are student athletes. And even though we want them to pursue winning and pursue at the highest level of athletics, we want them to be really, really good students. And so that is a commitment from us and our university. And then our last one is the pursuit of championships, and the key word being the pursuit, rather than win at all costs. Like, we wanted to pursue championships. So basically saying, like, we want to pursue the highest level of excellence that a person can pursue or a team can pursue. And so we build everything, make decisions off of those 4 pillars in that founding verse.
Well, one of the things that stood out to me when I had the opportunity to talk with y'all's president is the concept that athletics on campus at Dordt is not extracurricular. It is a co-curricular effort on campus. And I think that's unique. Maybe a lot of people would say it, but it seems very vibrant. And I remember him specifically telling me, when it's extra, it's just something that we might do and we might pursue in excellence. And so I guess he said it's a 4-letter word on campus, extra. Like, nothing here is extra. Everything we do is in pursuit of the development of the human person and their formation in the person of Jesus Christ. And so, that's got to be refreshing to lead an athletic department who not only wants to pursue faith excellence, but where y'all compete in NAIA, y'all want to win games. How do you see that going well? Like, what are potentially some of the challenges or maybe the pushback that you might get from other faith-driven institutions? Or maybe the best way to say it is, how do you help high school athletic directors that may be struggling with this tension between mission first or excellence in sport, and bringing those two together in a really healthy way?
Yeah. I think it's a book by Freeman, but he talks about the power of and versus the power of or, right? And so, like, we want to do the and. We want to be excellent in our sport, and we want to be so rooted in our faith. And I think the old school approach was that they had to be separate. And I think a lot of people think that they have to be separated. Like, even in the high school world, you see coaches that are evaluated on wins and losses. They're not evaluated on the character that they instilled in a student athlete. And I think, back to your word of refreshing, like, it is refreshing to have someone that knows how to win or wants to win and is competitive, but isn't losing sight of, like, the competitive nature to separate the spiritual development of our student athletes. And so when we think about those two, it's we really have to dig into the word and when we're making decisions. Like, we have to dig into the word and when we are thinking about everything that we do. I can't say what other schools are doing, but, like, from the outside looking in, everybody wants to win, and we're doing things to win. Dordt, like many other faith-based institutions, wants to do both. We want to win, and we're going to do our best to win and recruit athletes that fit Dordt, but we want to be the and that says, like, we're going to walk alongside of them in whatever they're going through to develop them as holistic Christians to go share the gospel while they're at Dordt and when they leave Dordt. And so that's the refreshing part of a leader that allows us to do that every day.
And hey, look, for what it's worth, I've been there. It's you can feel it when you're on campus at Dordt. It's not messaging they put on a wall. It really is a special place, and I would encourage anybody to give it a consideration if they're looking to compete in a way that faith and sport are going to interact and intertwine in a very non-confrontational but holistic embodiment of, like, man, this is what God's called you to. And so while you're here, we're going to pursue both with excellence, because he's going to use your time here, and he's going to use this pursuit to make you the man or woman that he wants you to be. So I thought a fun way to maybe kind of do this, and I want you to lean back on your high school days as well, because I would say probably the most amount of people that are going to listen to this would be a high school athletic director or coach. But let's kind of just start with the hiring process. You've got a vacancy in a head coaching position, and it doesn't have to be sports specific, but it is a challenge today, because I think many administrators feel a tension between do I go hire the person who is really mission driven? And down south, I often hear administrators, they'll call that the Jesus coach in quotation marks, very strong on mission, weaker on the ability to teach their sport, or they maybe feel a desire to hire the strong athletic coach, but is a little weaker on mission. I'm not asking you to choose between the two, but that's what I think people are experiencing. And I've got my own thoughts on that. I'm actually working on a blog post that kind of some of my self-discoveries over the last couple of months as I've gone through that process as an administrator. But let's just start with, you're hiring a new coach.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking for? I mean, what is it that you think faith-driven athletic directors, what's a good starting point as they put feelers out there for that new coach to lead a portion of their community?
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty loaded question. I'd go back. We were sitting at the table, right, at that conference, and we asked the question, can you transform the life of somebody else if you yourself haven't been transformed? And so I like to ask questions in interviews to see if there's transformation in that own coach's life, or where they've seen impact in the people that they've led. And if they can't express that, they're probably not going to be the leader for me. Because even if you're an assistant coach, or you're a part-time coach, or you're in a company, whatever you're doing, like, we have opportunities to impact people every day. And if you don't have personal stories of impact, like, how can you lead people towards impact? Because that's what we want. And so it starts there. This is an inside scoop. If anybody ever interviews for me, like, I ask the question, like, put them in order: faith, passion, and IQ. What's most important? Because when you start listing those out, and if they have to stumble over those, then there's a thought process behind it. And you ask the question, like, what's more important? Do they know more about the game? I think I can teach someone more about the game of basketball. I can't teach someone to dig into the gospel more. That has to be a self-choice, right? Like, and so I think when I lean into it, like, if someone has an exuberating passion for Christ, that's going to stick and that's going to impact people greatly. Then I would say I can find somebody else to walk alongside of them in the X's and O's. I can surround them with IQ. But if my leader can't lead in that faith portion, I'm going to deal with more problems than not. And so I believe it's more important to be strong in their faith, super grounded in faith, and exuberate that versus the IQ. Now, if you find, especially in the high school world, that diamond in the rough that can do both, hold on to them and find a way to support them well, because those people are tough to find. But does that answer your question around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sets a tone. I think I disagreed with you around the table at Baylor. I don't disagree with you. I mean, yes, I think the best candidates are people who have been transformed themselves through the power of the gospel. I agree with that. I just think the struggle, especially on our level as high school administrators, where sometimes you're hiring a part-time assistant, a part-time head coach, you don't even have a full-time position. I think one of the things that we need to do a better job of on our campuses is be more confident in our ability to form people in the mission of the school. So, for example, I was a basketball coach. I would be confident in being able to teach somebody how to coach basketball, but I don't know anything about volleyball. And so when I hire my volleyball coach, if I have to make a choice, I'm going to I need a volleyball expert. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing in a volleyball expert. And now I can't have you anti-mission. I'm not saying that. I'm not bringing in somebody who doesn't fit the mission of our institution. But I feel like I should be equipped as the assistant athletic director over girls sports on my campus, that that's the thing I'm best at, is coaching you on mission. Now, one of the interesting things that you said that I think is accurate is, I can't change your heart to be excited about that. and that is a difficult part of the process. And so, yes, if you're an administrator out there and you have found somebody who's killing it in both categories, I don't want to say hide them away, but definitely take care of them and keep them around campus, because it's getting harder and harder to find people who are desiring to be excellent in both categories. So now let's move forward. You've got them hired. How do you define success with your coaches to balance wins and losses and the desire to be great in sport, but also have that really big impact on the people that are within their community? When you hire them and you're onboarding them, how do you make that really clear about this is what success looks like here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first thing that we do when we onboard all coaches is we set the standard. Like, and I would say this to all high school ADs, grade school ADs, is set the standard. And so, like, we walk through we've done it in 5 training sessions. We've done an intensive version of a 4-hour training, like literally to a half-hour onboarding of like, this is who we are. And that starts already in the interview process. So they're very clear with who we are. And then when we hire them, then this is who we are. This is our expectation. In my department, I evaluate on all 4 of those things. Like, when I think about like our Defender Way, they get evaluated on those 4 pillars. They're not just evaluated on the wins and losses. So I already have an approach to, this is what you're going to be evaluated on. And I walk through it and I help them create their own evaluation. And we do it through a must, should, and wow goal evaluation. So like we say, like, these are the things that you must do according to the 4 pillars of the Defender Way. Now I want you to walk through the should and the wow on your own and take a first best crack at it. And then we're going to come back to it and we're going to really lean into, what are your expectations of living out into the community with our athletes? Like, are you going to the local schools and partnering with them? Are you going to food banks? Are you going to the elderly home? Like, where are you serving? And we walk through that expectation here at Dordt. And so all of those things are either trained, learned, or lived into. And so they experience it on a daily basis.
Do you find those things hard to measure at times, or no?
I think some of it, we could talk in circles and go back to the transform versus not, going to, do you pick the coach with high IQ versus not? I think some of that stuff is subjective, because then you say, like, where's your heart at? Is this just a transactional piece to go serve? I like to tell our coaches, like, develop meaningful relationships in your service. I think all of our communities have opportunities where we can go rake leaves, serve at a local food bank, go to the elderly home. But I think when we do it year after year after year, or every semester, we've developed relationships with these people. And so there's a difference between, are you serving just to serve, or are you serving so that way you can impact? And that's how I evaluate some of that stuff.
So maybe you have a coach who's really successful in the sport, but they're struggling a little bit on the mission part. What do you do? Like, how do you coach them up? Especially what I find to be a struggle is adults aren't overly coachable themselves. It's something that we all want our athletes to be, but what's your approach so that when it comes time to evaluate them at the end of the year, a lot of the information that you need to give them isn't necessarily a shock? Do you have any steps along the way? Is it weekly meetings? I'm just kind of curious what your approach is as you're continuing to create excellence in a coach that's on campus, doing well, but they could do better.
Yeah. I think all of us are that way. And if we're not learning, we're probably not going to become really, really good at our craft. Like, I think you're really successful in what you do, and you continue to grow. Like, if you just stop growing, I think I'd have concern for you in and of itself. And so all of my coaches are going to have something that they need to work on. And I gave some of the example the other day. Our toughest relationships in life are the ones that went through the most controversy, or the most conflict, or the most tension. Like, think about who your strongest relationship is. I'm just going to guess that it's probably your wife.
Yeah.
Okay. If every conversation with your wife was, I love you, hon. Thank you for all you do. You're the best. She's probably always going to like live in this world of like neutral, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if you never provide her feedback. And while that might be healthy for some organizations, us, like we live into we want to give critical feedback so we can continue to learn and grow. And alongside of your question, like, what do you do to help them out? A little bit of everything. Like, we've developed a peer-to-peer mentorship group in our athletic program. So people that we would think are exemplars. I have a coach that we were working on one thing and I had them, they had to go to 4 other coaches' practices to sit in with me. So that way we could sit and discuss, like, what do you see about the organization, the time, the feedback, the relationship with coach, like how they're holding a standard. In the high school world, I did things as simply as like, I just don't think you're getting it. Like, why don't you try and read this book and then come talk to me? And I want that done by the end of the month. And I had a coach that, if he's listening, he probably will one of these days because he follows me still. But he said to me, he was like, this was so hard and I didn't get what you were trying to accomplish until I read this book. And now I get everything. I get all that you're trying to do. And it was the Messiah method. And it was like, it was just as simple as a book. And so trying different ways of feedback has been the most beneficial for me.
Well, I mean, how do you, like, because y'all have a really special culture. So you have all these coaches now who are on campus. One of the things my athletic director talks about, because he's done a great job building a really special culture here at the Woodlands Christian. What do you do? Like, I mean, that's something that has to be safeguarded. And so what are some things that you have in place that you're always really making sure you've got your thumb on as a leader that's like, hey, man, we've got to protect this culture that we built. We can't fall into assumption. I think sometimes at schools or within programs, we kind of can get complacent. So how do we fight complacency as leaders to not just think, well, because it's this way for the past couple of years, it's going to be this way for the next 5?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a multifaceted approach. I mean, every meeting, we do not start without doing something on the Defender Way. Like, what are we doing in the Defender Way? I grabbed it from one of my football coaches. They do attaboys like at the end of a game. So like we'll do shout outs to coaches that are doing things well. We'll use them as exemplars. Like, I have my coaches leading a professional development study throughout the year of things that they're doing. So I'll say, hey, Coach Harbinson, why don't you talk about your purpose over goal sheet and how you're holding mission fidelity in your program, so that way coaches can learn something new. And so we have coaches teaching coaches in our professional development model. It might be just small check-ins. Like, I have monthly check-ins with every one of my coaches, like individually. And I'll just say, like, tell me what's good in your culture. Tell me what you're struggling with your culture. And then here's what I've been noticing. And so it's simple, but it's also an opportunity to provide feedback. And so making sure, like, whether I have to be the guy that pokes holes in everything, I just have to keep my hand on it. So like, I ask questions regularly, and I grab that from my president. He sometimes asks questions just to get an answer, not to question whether I'm doing it or not. He just wants me to be able to answer it. And so sometimes I'll say to my coaches, like, what have you done this week to integrate faith in your practice? And don't tell me team devotions and prayer.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as that, because going back to your coaching career, like, if you left that conversation and I asked you that question, since you're a learner, it would drive you nuts if you didn't have an answer, and you'd go back and you'd make it a point of emphasis. And so if you have learners on your staff, which I do, they're always willing to be reflective on it, think about it, and ask questions about what other people are doing. And so everything we do goes back to our Defender Way.
Well, now I'm jumping around, but you've said learners a couple times. Like, that's obviously really important to you. You want to hire people that are active learners.
Mhm.
How do you figure that out in the interview process? What are certain things that maybe you're asking or really digging into to discover whether somebody is passionate about continuing to develop themselves?
Yeah. I'll ask them what they're doing inside their craft to get better. I'll ask them, what do they do as hobbies? You know, some people have hobbies where they go to the golf course, which is great. I think golfing, like, it's one of my hobbies. Um, but if they're not doing anything else besides like listening to a podcast or digging into a book or reading blogs or whatever it is, like if I can't pull that out of them somewhere, I'm probably like, they're probably pretty stagnant and they're just going to be really, really good at the track that they're on. And maybe they're just following three basketball coaches that are favorites of theirs. And that's what their learning is. I need someone that's holistic. And so I want someone who's digging into a random podcast. I want someone who's listening to a different pastor or different leader. I want someone that talks about their mentors, like who's
Mhm.
challenging you in your everyday life. So I'll ask that question in an interview, like, who are you being challenged by? And then who do you go to when conflict arises in your life besides your spouse or your brother or sister? Like, and I figure out really quickly that people that are invested in other people and people that are constantly wanting to seek advice or feedback, like they're learners. So I dig into that.
How much do your coaches interact? Are they isolated in their programs, or do y'all meet regularly? Do you find that your coaches, because they share this defender way, are they excited about watching each other compete and succeed, or do they kind of just operate in their own little silos?
I don't know about your experience. My whole experience in athletics has been coaches tend to lean more towards the silo route than the digging all in route to other programs. And not because they don't care, but because they're so busy. Um, One of the reasons why we put it as a point of emphasis to build onto our existing building was to get all of our head coaches in the same building so that
Mm,
they could learn from each other. Because in one of my first meetings, I um, that I was leading as the athletic director here, I had a coach look over and be like, "Who is that guy?" And I was like, "That guy's been with us for 6 months. Like, how do you know who that guy is?" Like, and so we had to break it down. And so, I meet with my head coaches once a month. I meet with my athletic staff once a month. We have a coffee with the coaches once a month. So it's just like an organic, like, I'm going to
mhm,
provide snacks at 8 a.m. Come for a half hour, grab your coffee, and talk to somebody else beside your program. And then I
mhm.
really push it for my head coaches for like them to get their assistants there and put it on their schedule. And so we find organic ways to get our coaches in the same room talking with each other. Um, and so we do it in so many different ways. But have we always been this way? No, we were pretty siloed. Um, and our coaches didn't talk a whole lot. They had their select few.
Do you feel like, in talking to other administrators around the country, and we're going to get into coaching for transformation here in a minute, and I think that's your avenue. You talk to a lot of high school athletic directors who are looking to grow in this way. How do we make our departments more mission driven? But as you talk to them, are you finding it hard to find administrators who are super intentional about growing their staffs as human beings?
Mm.
Or because what I find is, it seems people get caught up in the minutia. I
Yeah.
mean, there is a ton of work on our plates. We got to schedule officials. We got to make sure we got buses for away games. I mean, all of the things that goes into being an administrator, and a coach. How do we consistently say, "Hey, we've got to slow down amidst the busyness"? And then how do we encourage more administrators to go, "Hey, this is going to really benefit you. You're going to create better winning programs if you will focus on the growth of the people that you lead." I
Mm.
mean, are you finding it hard to find those people, or are you refreshed? Maybe I'm just pessimistic. I don't know.
I think you're spot on. I think there's so many ADs out there that desire that. I don't think that they have the time to do it.
Mm,
And I don't think structures are set up that way. And so, like, I joke around, and I have joked around with like a Keith Wall at Valor, where I'll be like, dude, you're the 1% of athletic programs that you have 3 or 4 athletic directors and assistant athletic directors to walk through this. Like, I would say that over 70% of schools have one AD.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look at it, if one AD has to be in charge of, let's just throw an easy number out there, 50 coaches, 50 schedules, and 300 athletes, that in itself is a job. So where do you find opportunity for growth? Like, you're not going to go teach someone. My doctorate was on professional development of the secondary duties of coaches, because I wanted to dig into what high school coaches were interested in learning about, and then what professional development model would work. And it was literally like everybody had a different thing that they were interested in. And so the only model that it could come out of it would be to take on your existing school professional development model, open it up to your coaching staff so they could learn. And my recommendation was that you require your head coaches to go to 2 out of the 24 sessions that you have throughout the year, so that they could learn about mental illness, learn about social anxiety, learn about all the things that our teachers are learning about. But that was the only way that you could come up with a model with an AD over that many coaches to teach them and help them grow, unless you had full-time assistants.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about coaching for transformation. Teaching for transformation is something that came out of Dordt University. Mm-hmm. And coaching for transformation has followed that. It's behind a little bit, not behind, it's just newer than teaching for transformation. But tell us about coaching for transformation and what it can do in the life of an athletic department, for those people that might be interested in getting a little bit more intentional help in this process. Because I do think sometimes the best way to grow is you got to invest in it, and you got to say, mm-hmm. Hey, I want to grow in this area. I want to become the best athletic director I can. And if you're not buying it at times, that's a bad word, but like, it's easy to push to the side when you get busy. But it's like, man, no, we've invested in this. We want to grow in this area. So tell us about coaching for transformation and how y'all are helping schools.
Yeah, I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to talk about that. I mean, coaching for transformation, the gist comes from mission, vision, alignment of institutions. And when I referenced it earlier, my predecessor was part of that group that wanted to start coaching for transformation because we saw a need. And so, along with many other people that sat in a room, we all struggled with the same thing. Like, how do you develop a winning organization, a winning program that digs into faith formation well? And then how do you align that with your institution's mission? And so when you referenced it earlier from our president, like, our founder's vision talks about everything being permeated with the Spirit. So what does permeation with the Spirit look like? Like, everything gets touched, felt, and experiences the Holy Spirit because of the impact. It's not separate. And so in order to not have separation, you need to have alignment. So if I'm aligned, I need to be aligned with the gospel, number one, but the gospel needs to be aligned with my board, my president, my school administration, my athletic director, my coaches, my student athletes, my parents. Like, coaching for transformation is a mission, vision, alignment tool to build a foundation for faith formation. So whether that's evaluating coaches, surveying student athletes, like talking to parents, hiring and firing processes, onboarding, like all of the above, that's what coaching for transformation is doing, is to help schools fully understand how important that alignment is. Because if you don't know your mission and your vision of your athletic department, how are you going to remove a coach? You don't have a reason why.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah.
Because the only reason why is because you have a parent that's mad because they weren't as successful. And then that parent gets parent number 2, parent number 3, and then they go into the principal instead of the AD's office, and the principal pressures the AD, and now everybody's misaligned. And it's like, I failed at that in my career, and I wanted to help people do that. And now that's what Coaching for Transformation is doing. And then once we grab that foundation, we want to help them deepen the practices within their own programs to help that really good basketball coach that might be a strong believer but does not know how to integrate it in their program, help them integrate it in their program. So how do they build faith formative practices in their program that it's not a bookend? Like, we pray before and we pray after, and we're going to do anything in between, but we're not going to we're not going to mess up our practice. It's like, no, how can we do both? How can we be permeated in the gospel in what we do? And so that's what Coaching for Transformation does.
I'll let y'all like have this if you want it, but what I heard when you were saying that is Coaching for Transformation helps athletic directors and coaches respond well to what comes up instead of having to just simply react. I think when you talk about that parent that gets upset because Johnny didn't play as much, or maybe you didn't win like we wanted you to, and now they're all amped up, and we find ourselves having to just react to that instead of being able to take our process, take our mission, and use it to respond in a way that is healthy, and it continues to align to the overall objective of the institution, not just athletics or not just academics. Like, we're one, we're together. Like, this is our mission. So I love that. I mean, I guess the way for people to reach out, if they're interested in that, is you can go to the Coaching for Transformation website. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link it in the bottom. But Darin, I always ask people this question because I really like to read, and some of the coaches, I haven't been doing this a long time, but I've gotten some great books off of just this request that I like to read or listen to. Actually, my last podcast I did with Keith Wall at Valor Christian, and he recommended The Twin Thieves as a book on athletic performance. And I just finished listening to that one. It was a great read. So what are a couple books that have either impacted you as a leader and a coach that you would recommend for others? And you'd say, man, you got to read these two or this one. I don't care how many you recommend. What do you like?
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, you can't say the Bible. That's cheating.
Well, I have a whole list of books that I could go into, but like anything Patrick Lencioni, I mean, he's phenomenal. I just got done, a month or two ago about the Titus 10. It just talks about like 10 principles of the book of Titus. And it just breaks it down. It talks about how you develop, how you walk alongside of. So those would be two quick hitters. I mean, the Messiah Method and how they live into the mission vision of like their institution and in their programming is a really good holistic book on like an athletic department. The Christian Athlete, I could go on and on about. There's many, many books that you could read. I mean, you look out there and there's so many that point back. And so those would be easy, quick hitters.
Well, hey, I appreciate you spending some time with us today. You got anything left, or maybe, I know we tried to semi-prepare for this, and then it was like hopefully the weather's going to make this work out and we don't have to re-record it. But anything else that you got, like closing thoughts or something you feel like we've missed that would be beneficial to athletic directors and coaches as they continue to pursue excellence in faith and sport?
Yeah, I'd say to any athletic director or coach out there, like, reach out. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be to me, but like, reach out to other people, develop a community that you can bank on, that you can go to, because like, it's a field, and it's a tough field, and it's a grinding field that demands a lot out of you. And so find those people that you can go to that can either encourage or that you can continue to have life-giving conversations to remind you why you got into the field originally. Because if we only look at the negative of the job, we're going to all probably hop out of it really quickly. But if you look at back to the why of why you got in, and hopefully it's to walk alongside of young men and women to impact them, like, reach out to people, because there's many resources out there. Reach out to me anytime. I'd be happy to be a resource, or be someone that you could vet to. So thank you.
All right, Darin, we appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right. God bless.